Episode 85, Working Class on DeerCast. Mr. Jon Forman's in studio with me. Thanks for coming, man.
Hey, thanks for having me.
Appreciate it. We got to hang out in bear camp.
Oh, man.
So it's funny because when we were in bear camp, we recorded episodes, and this one will launch before those episodes. So
Bear camp was fun.
Bearathon. It's Bearathon week here at Working Class Bowhunter, but here on Working Class on DeerCast, it's whitetail. We're talking whitetails to kick off Bearathon week.
I like it.
So if you're tuning in as this airs in real time, the week after this, starting tomorrow with CC Hunt Files, will be flooded with bear episodes front to back all the way. Like, I don't think we're going to launch 5 or 6 bear episodes this week. So probably, I think it's going to set the record of most episodes we pushed out in a week.
Incredible footage, incredible week.
Great week.
Good group of dudes. Like,
all around great
It was
week.
just incredible.
So yeah, thanks for coming on to bear camp with us.
Oh, man. Thanks for the invite. It was fun. I had a great time.
Dude,
we got to go back.
We got to
go back. It was a good.
We'll do it. But we're here to talk whitetails with you, man, because you're a big buck killer. And hanging out with you in bear camp, I learned you have a lot of like big buck. It just came out in conversation. Like you're like, oh yeah, I do this. I'm like, oh yeah. So I don't know if we'll be able to get into all that because like that just happened throughout the week of talking to you. And maybe this will spark more ideas for me to get you back and interview you. But give us a little bit of background on who you are and how you got here with an episode titled Big Bucks.
Yeah, sure. Again, thanks for having me, Jon Forman. Of course, and to give you a little bit about myself, I was thinking about this on the way up here. You know, I shot my first deer with a bow when I was 8.
Whoa, for real?
Yeah, I got the picture. I was going to show you. You'll make fun of me because I'm a little guy with big ears.
8? That's 8. Early work right there.
Yeah, it was early work. I was barely pulling legal draw weight. I was working my ass off every day trying to, get that. And my dad had me, limited to about 15 yards.
Smart.
And, yeah, real smart.
Yeah.
And it was cool because I was thinking about that hunt on the way up here. Like, that's what really got me into archery. It's what got me into hunting.
Yeah.
And he had us in separate ladder stands. We had old wooden homemade ladder stands.
Yeah.
And so he had us in separate ladder stands. We were like 10 yards apart. So it was cool. I was like my first, I'm doing this on my own type thing.
See, that's pretty dang cool.
Yeah, it was cool. And this big doe came in, and I just 12 yards, I flat out smoked her. Like heart shot. She was on a death run. And
so your dad was a hardcore hunter then?
Yeah, he was a hardcore hunter. Shot some pretty good deer, but for the most part, I really kind of took it to a different level.
I got you.
And but that's what really started. I was 8, and I was thinking about that. I'm 38, so this is my 30th year hunting.
Wow.
Yeah.
Congrats, you're still at it.
Yeah, I'm still at it. I've kind of worked through a lot of things. I tore my rotator cuff last year, tore one of the muscles in it, and was able to recover and dropped my bow down to like 55 pounds. And
no kidding. But still after it.
Still after it. So that's my passion. That has been my passion my entire life. And that's what I do. Anybody that knows
8 years
me, that's
old,
what I do.
Well, yeah, and that's what the people I want to surround myself with, people who are like dedicated their life to like what we do. This isn't a flash in the pan thing. It's how you live your life.
Exactly.
You don't even put yourself on social media.
I used to. You
want to talk about what happened with that, or can you?
Sure, yeah, sure. I mean, it's just
because it proves to me that it's like you're doing it because you like big bucks,
right? And that was the whole. I started asking myself, like, why am I putting this on social media? Was it for the attention? Was it for the likes? Whatever it was, I don't know. But I just felt like I didn't need to do that. Like, I don't need to do that. I felt like I needed to respect the animals more. You are taking the life of an animal.
Absolutely.
You have to respect that. So
for sure.
I just kind of got off social media, and it's with work and careers and everything. It is a distraction.
Yeah.
And I think your phones even tell you like how much time you spend on those.
Yeah. What do they call it? Like screen time or whatever.
Screen time. And so like I was looking at that, I'm like, wow, I could, be using that time in more valuable places, like in the woods, like learning my deer. So I'm sitting here 2.5 hours on Facebook or Instagram or whatever. And I mean, it's all good. But it's just like, I think I can be more productive in other areas of my life. So definitely. I kind of just got off social. I mean, I'm kind of back on it now, but I don't have a lot of my harvest stuff on there.
Yeah. I like that, like you want to fly under the radar, and you're an Illinois guy too. So
Illinois guy. Yeah. Local guy.
Yeah. Yeah. Fairly local.
Yeah. Fairly local. Yeah.
But no, I just respect that because it just shows that right there just proves flat out that like, you're just hunting because you like to hunt, Yeah. And a lot of guys, when you talk like you've been hunting 30 years. I think I just went through my 20th or 21st season. So it's like you can, like guys like us that have the time in, it's before the internet was like what it is now. And it's like, I don't know. I love the internet. I think it's necessary. We've been talking a lot about the internet and like evaluating how toxic or positives and negatives of it in the hunting game. And I'm kind of getting burnt out in the conversation, but the podcast lives on the internet.
Right.
So I have to have it. It's a necessary evil.
You have to have it.
But what's great about the podcast is I can eventually want to hire someone to just manage it all for me. But it loses that personal interaction. But I just like hanging out with big buck killers like yourself and the other people we get to talk to. But so let's dive into some big buck stuff.
Right. Yeah. So I was thinking about that on the way up here. What are 4 or 5 things I can talk about that have helped me succeed over the years that could potentially help a listener or anybody watching this video? And there's no major secrets. Everybody has the exact tools I have. So I first should start off.
You mean to tell me there's not an easy button?
There's not an easy button. Dang it.
Why did I show up here?
I know. So, the thing is, I'm like every other person. I own an 80-acre farm. And we have a family farm that's 160 acres, and I have 4 or 5 other farms that I can hunt. Nothing's even over 200 acres. So I don't own 3,000 acres or 4,000, thousands of acres. I don't have that. I'm just like every other normal guy. And I was thinking about that. The one thing is it just like anything in life, like your career, your marriage, your work, your faith, your working out, your whatever it is, it takes really hard work.
Yeah.
It takes hard work.
For sure.
And I know that sounds really simple, but think about it. So we're rolling into the 2023 deer season. That started the day the 2022 deer season ended for me. And I'm sure just like you and Chandler or anybody else, like it's a 365 thing.
Yeah.
I just mentioned earlier before we even jumped on here, I was running a dozer for the last 2 days, and we're creating, food plots. So it's just a lot of hard work all the time, whether that's looking at trail cam photos. Like just last night, I was sitting in my chair with my wife, and I use Reconyx cell cams, and they've got the ability to like filter and tag deer. So I was looking through like all my favorites and, just seeing kind of what deer I'll have this year to hunt. And what ones survived and what ones didn't. And so it's just stuff like that all the time. You're constantly working for these big deer. If you're not working your ass off, you're not working hard.
It's hard to have success with not putting in the time or work or money, but a lot of it's time. You can do a lot of stuff easier with money, but you can do a lot of stuff cheaper for a little more time and a little more work. I love that conversation, and that's where it starts. We could talk about any tip and tactic, like we're talking about pinch points or whatever terrain feature. If you haven't put in the work to figure out how to get in and out of it, it's work. It might not seem like a ton of work. You got to do the work.
You got to do the work. You
get paid.
Look at maps. That was one of the other tools that I use a lot. So
I was on DeerCast maps the other night. Till like 1:30 in the morning in bed. I'm just fantasizing. Oh, dude, mine too. I didn't tell my wife I was up that late. Like she wakes up. What are you doing? I'm like, nothing. But like just studying and like, what if I checked out I don't know. I just do that. I nerd out sometimes.
Yeah, well, I use, we have through Western Illinois University, we have a GIS program they put on, and I'm able to access their maps, and they have LiDAR on there, so it really shows good terrain features and saddles and pinch points.
Man, you're supposed to say you're on DeerCast. You got to get in the DeerCast.
I know. Well,
I'll sell you after this podcast, and I'll show you all.
I use DeerCast a lot.
Oh, you do? Okay.
Yeah, but I work with WIU, so I use and access their maps all the time too. So it's just any map I can get.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Anything that shows any features like that, it's a big
for sure.
It's a big help
for sure.
Yep.
Yeah, I think that's not that part's not overlooked. That's some of the easiest work you can do is study maps.
Oh yeah.
Now knowing what you're looking for while you study the maps, but it also goes back to putting in the work.
Right.
Knowing the terrain you're hunting, you can get, on the ground floor research, and then it makes your map research a little easier.
Yeah, exactly.
So
that's where the end of that 2022 deer season, rolling into 23, you're doing that with your maps on your phones. You're checking pinch points, you're pinning them on your phone, travel corridors, bedding areas, all those things.
For sure.
You're learning, right? If you're not learning, you're not going to be that successful.
You're going backwards.
You got to learn. You got to take every opportunity to learn. This podcast, all the resources we have, all the people that we have. Everybody just has incredible information. And, I know Mark Drury even listens to these and will take any information he hears from me or you or anybody and to help him be more successful. So, is anybody that can give you that, edge is
for sure
is what you're looking for.
Well, so we're breaking this down into like Jon Forman's big buck steps. One is put in the hard work.
Yep.
Okay. Where's number 2 take us?
Okay. So number 2 is also a simple one.
Okay.
What's your goal?
Ooh, that's a very so obvious, so necessary though.
So yeah, I mean,
give me an example.
My goals, you know, been on a sliding scale. It's, you know, it's changed over the years. So when I first started, it was to 8 years old, harvest a deer with a bow. I did that. Moving into, I think I could drive. You know, I think I was just 16. I shot my first buck, so that was my goal. Like, I want to shoot a buck with my bow. It was in the 30s. It just Pope, you know, just made Pope and Young.
Perfect.
It was just clean 8. It's a cool deer. Looking back, it's probably a 3 or 4 year old deer, but it's fine. It's great for my first deer.
For sure.
And so then my goal, you know, was just to start shooting bucks consistently. And I started doing that consistently. And then I kind of got stuck in a rut, and like I was shooting a lot of nice deer in like the 40s and 50s, like consistently, like 2 every year.
Yeah.
And I just wasn't okay with that. After a while, I don't want to sound wrong, but it almost became a little boring to me.
Expected and kind of like baseline to you
I
a
just
little bit?
knew that I have a stand that I call the buck stand, and if you go sit there between the 4th and the 15th, you're going to kill one of those deer.
Oh, yeah, okay.
So, like, I just know, like, I knew, like, I'm going to
If you just parked your ass there, you're going
to kill a 50s class deer almost every year.
So let me unpack that a little bit.
Okay.
Because I'm thinking where I'm at a little bit with everything you just said. So there was a transition spot in your growth as a deer hunter to get you to find that spot that was that good.
Right.
And then it worked for you, and it almost kind of enabled you to not grow more. I mean, you did grow. Well, you did grow because you're killing deer you wanted to kill.
Right.
And you killed a lot of them. And then now you're like, okay, where's the next step?
Okay. So this brings me back to college. So it was when I was in college, and I was in that step where I was just slamming 50s class deer all the time. And we started going to shows, you know, whatever, all the classics around. And I met, obviously, you know, you're watching all the guys, or you're meeting all the guys you start, you know, watching on prime time and all the videos. And one of the guys I always looked up to is Mark. You know, he's just a great guy. He's a humble guy. He's always killing big deer.
Yeah.
And, you know, had a chance to talk with him a little bit at one point years ago. I was thinking about that. It was probably 10 or 12 years ago. It was a long time ago. And he's the one, you know, he said, well, what's your goal? And I was like, well, I want to kill deer like you're killing. What the hell are you doing? You know, and tell me.
Yeah.
And, you know, I started showing him some of my deer, and he goes, well, that's, you know, I'm telling him I want to kill 60s, 70s class deer. And he's like, well, those aren't 60s and 70s class deer. And I'm like, yeah, I get it. So
it's so straight up.
Yeah.
But you need that.
Yeah, that's what I needed. And so I was okay that he said that, but for a long time, like, I still wasn't okay, like, passing those deer. Like, I had to graduate. Like, I had to move through that. Yeah. And so, you know, I won't forget when I shot my first high 60s class deer. You know, that was
there's a stud buck.
There's a major difference between a mid 50s and a mid 60s.
For sure.
Like, there's a major difference.
Yeah.
And it's just a totally different animal.
It definitely is.
I think it was a 5-year-old. At that time, I really wasn't tracking like their age and stuff, but I'm pretty confident it was in that 5 or 6 range. And so that really, you know, that kind of fueled the fire. And so basically, you know, I set my goal. Like, I want to start killing mature deer. And like, mature is different to every single person. So for me, like, my goal was like 5 years old. Like, I wanted to start targeting 5-year-old deer. Yeah. And so I did that, and I was killing a lot of nice 5-year-old deer. And then I, you know, like anything in life, I tried to raise the bar again. So now I want to try to kill 6-year-old deer, which is harder because there's not a lot of 6-year-old deer where I'm at. But
not a lot anywhere.
Not a lot anywhere. Yeah. So, you know, it's just, I think you have to make that personal decision to find your goal and then stick with it.
So what took you from the next step to the 60s, 70s step, or whatever we want to call that, when you kind of graduated out of that, like, there's my primo spot, I have confidence, if I just park there, I'll kill one. What did you do different to graduate out and like elevate from there?
I took a risk and I passed a big deer, and I didn't catch up to him until 2 years later, where he was a mega. So I passed him when he was in the 70s. I want to say, I'm just guessing he was, I know, and people think,
no, I'm not hating. I'm not hating. I'm
cool. I got to find the trail photo. I got a trail photo of him walking by me, and I'm in the background in my tree, like, ready to shoot. It's just a big
a mega. Okay.
It's his 70s, you know.
Yeah.
And I think he was, I'm pretty sure he was 5.
Okay.
And, but I just knew he had the potential. Like, he had everything. He had the mass, the tines, everything. And so that deer at age 5 was just a stud. And I passed him. And I don't really know why, because it's 70s class deer. Like, that's kind of crazy. But I just, like, I want to see what he turns into.
Yeah, well,
You know, and I hear Mark and all the other guys talk about they're bigger when they get older.
Yeah.
So let's see what happens here. And I know damn well, like, every neighbor's going to shoot that deer.
oh yeah.
You know, and I wouldn't knock them. Like, it's a good deer.
No, yeah.
So
I see. I'm following you. I'm not hating on you. I don't think anybody else is. You're elaborating on why you passed it.
Yeah. So and then the following year, I was hunting another good deer, upper 80s class deer, and I ended up killing him at the end of the season. And I didn't get a chance to catch up to that deer that I passed the former year that was in the 70s. Well, the following year,
after you passed him,
after I passed him, so 2 years later.
Okay, I got you.
2 years later, he's 7. And he is a mega.
So what do you do the year after you passed him?
He went up into the 80s.
Okay.
Like, just clean.
Progressing.
Like mid 80s, like
okay.
good year.
Okay.
Yeah, and then he blew up at age 7.
Like, how are we talking?
He went 200.
Really? Mm-hmm. So let's talk about it.
So, yeah, I mean, I killed that deer at age 7.
That's the buck you killed.
That's the buck I killed at age 7. And I knew he was there. Oh, this is a good story. I knew he was there. He was on the farm. I saw him it was in a bean field that summer, and when they're in velvet and they're 200 inches,
they look more insane.
They just look like an elk. I mean, huge. And I was like, oh boy, I knew where he's at. I've hunted him for 2 years. I knew exactly where he was. I know his travel patterns. I know everything. I don't need to put a trail camera on that farm. Anybody that knows me, and this doesn't apply to everybody's farm, but applies to a lot of the farms I hunt because they're pressured around. So like my thing is like the best food plots, no pressure. Like that's what I say.
Yeah.
And so like my thing for this deer was, that's my saying. This deer was very sensitive to human pressure. And I just know that from the history I had with him. So basically I had to just like, I'm not putting trail cameras on the farm. I'm not doing anything. Like there's like no food plots. There's like literally zero pressure for this deer. Like that was my goal. I want
like you didn't want to mess around in there or do nothing.
Nothing. Like I literally wanted my neighbors to pressure him. I wanted this farm's like 123 acres. I wanted that deer to basically call that his core.
Gotcha.
I know that if he did that, I'd have an opportunity to kill him. But here's the thing. This deer was just like all big bucks. They have different personalities. This one was just like sensitive to everything. And, you know, so it was November 3rd. And for the stand that I was going to kill him in, if I was going to have an opportunity, I had to have a south-southwest wind. Not southwest, not...
South-southwest.
Very south-southwest. It hits my wind, it hits my back. It dumps over this big ravine. I had to have a south-southwest wind. Not southwest, not west. Had to be south-southwest.
Okay.
And so I'd waited all year. I have not hunted that farm. Not one time.
Oh, dude, the best food plot is no pressure.
The best food plot's no pressure. That's my thing.
Okay.
Everybody knows me, knows that saying.
So you're holding out. You know there's a 200 and whatever inch deer on this farm, and you haven't hunted it because you're holding out for the one wind.
I'm watching DeerCast. DeerCast is my thing. I'm watching DeerCast. You know, I might have had a wind that was decent on a day that said bad or okay. And I'm like, you know, it's earlier in the year. It was October. Like, I can't. So coming,
the formula wasn't all
the formula wasn't there. I was just like, you know, I'm gonna hold out. November 3rd rolls around. It's raining. Okay, rained all through the night of November 3rd, going into the morning of November 4th, and it's still raining. I'm watching the radar. I'm in my garage. I have a south-southwest wind. It's November 4th. That's the 4th and the 7th have been my days.
Yeah,
and I had like an instinct. Like I knew I was going to kill that deer that day. I was nervous. I was nervous. I was literally in my garage pacing back and forth, talking to my buddies, looking at the radar. It was still raining, and I'm pacing back and forth. And I'm like, oh my God, I gotta go.
Yeah.
And yeah, it was like, it stopped raining it didn't stop. Like I headed to the farm about 11, right before noon. And I got up in the tree. It was like 11:45. I literally took a Snapchat, arranged a couple things, and I looked up, and here he came.
No kidding.
High noon, I killed that buck.
That's awesome.
He came, he was on the run. I just ranged at 31 yards, and I started to draw on him. I drew back on him, and for whatever reason, he turned and walked right to me at 12 yards. And there's like a little twig that was probably not in the way, but I really wasn't going to risk it. So I literally did, like, if you're in the gym and you do a squat, like I literally did a squat at full draw, and I stopped that deer at 12 yards, and... And I mean, just the perfect shot, just instantaneous, like smoke show.
Yeah. You know, no doubt in your mind that
he's pumping both sides.
Do you watch him go down?
Oh, he ran like 50 yards, and he turned and looked at me like,
you got
me.
No kidding.
And he stood there, and I'm like, how is he still standing? And he's starting to get wobbly, and he dumped over. And I literally went, I was freaking out.
I bet you were.
I was freaking out. It's a stud. And yeah, I mean, I got down, went right to him, and, you know, sent the Snapchat to everybody. I hadn't been in the stand for 35 minutes.
That's awesome.
You know, but I've killed the last several bucks of that age caliber at that, you know, at between 11 and 2.
Well, I like the way you described the type of day it was, because everyone, if they've deer hunted, you know that type of day.
Oh, man.
It's beautiful.
Yeah.
It's beautiful. You want to be out there.
Yeah.
And commit to it.
My buddy was headed, you know, he's like, I'm going grocery shopping. I'm not going out this early. And like, he just got back from unloading the groceries, and I called him. He goes, I know you haven't killed a buck yet. And I go, dude, I don't want to ask you not to go hunting on November 4th, but you got to come.
You ain't going hunting.
You got to come.
Yeah.
And he's like, I'm on the way. So it was cool.
That's awesome, man. It's a great story.
Oh, boy. It was just
so how big was he? What'd he go? Not that the inches matter, but just
I mean, I think he grossed 204.
That's a stud. 204 on November 4.
Yep.
That's awesome, man.
It's a good deer.
So you're putting in the work, man. It's you pass that buck that you set your goal.
Yep.
Stage 2. And by the way, we didn't map out this step 1 through 5 program before. We're just winging this. But I was curious, you know, like, because I feel like I got a buck in the high 60s.
It's a good deer.
And I feel like I'm on deer that are bigger. So I feel like I got my cap and gown on, but I'm somewhere in between. But also, my biggest fault, man, is my own brain, because I just like to shoot deer.
Yeah.
So, like,
I hear you.
if I don't have a deer that will go that way, or I can't find one, I'm just like, anything good enough. I'll set my goal. I just want to shoot a deer.
Yeah, and that's, you know, I mean, that's everybody's got their own thing. You know,
yeah.
For me, it's weird.
But I want to kill Jon Forman type bucks.
Well, then you have to be okay with not killing bucks.
I know, and I just like shooting them, man.
If you that's where I really learned from that experience. You know, if I kill a deer in the 170s, I'm potentially killing my next 200-inch deer.
Yeah.
So,
yeah,
and that also applies to deer that are 150. Like, if your goal's, I want to kill a 170, you know, you kill them at 150, it's never going to be 170, right?
Yep.
So you got to help yourself. You know, you can't
Absolutely.
control outside factors like disease or your neighbors or cars, whatever.
Yep.
But you can control yourself.
Hard to swallow pills.
It's a hard to swallow pill.
Because, dude, a 170, man, you know, mid 170s, whatever you're saying, it's like, whew.
I'm getting the itch, though. I didn't kill anything last year.
Yeah.
I was thinking about that on the way up here. I passed 6 deer in the 50s and 2 in the 60s.
Yeah, that's a year, man.
And I sent a couple of those Snapchats to Chandler, and he's like, "You're an idiot." You know, he's like, "What's wrong with you?" And I'm like,
"What's funny is like,
I'm hoping those deer survived." I know 3 of them died.
3 of them did.
3 of them died.
Neighbors,
I found 2 of them during shut season dead. Yeah,
like EHD or just shot.
I think shot probably.
Yeah, like drives and didn't know they
deer drives, didn't know they hit them. Or
see what I love about that like exchange with you and Chandler, because he's like the WCB resident like calculated killer, like him and Ross are, you know.
Oh yeah, they're killers.
So it's funny to see Ross or Austin like say that to somebody else, which, you know, I think he suffers from a little bit of what I suffer from. Like, we like to shoot stuff.
Oh yeah,
and I'll admit it more than he will. He's a little more reserved.
He's a killer though.
Now he's a killer. Well, yeah, he's a killer,
big buck killer
for sure.
Big
He's killed
killer.
some studs.
Oh,
so I'm not saying that I'm on the same level as Austin. I'm not, but I feel like mindset is more alike than like the gap from Austin to your mindset of like passing a high 70s buck. You know.
Well, that was a tough pass.
I'm not, but for the record, I don't want you to feel like I'm talking negatively towards you for that. Like, I am praising you because that's what it takes. And there's going to be people listening and watching that are going to say this guy's crazy.
Well, with that being said, if a neighbor would have killed that deer, I would have been sick. You know, if he would have killed him the year I passed him at 70s, ouch.
You're being honest.
I'm being honest.
Who wouldn't?
I would have been sick.
Yeah.
You know, because I've got a few 70s class deer, but I don't have like 20 of them.
Right.
You know, so it would have been a tough pill to swallow.
Yeah, I mean, you're literally throwing the dice out on the table.
But like I said, you can only control yourself.
You can only control it. Hey, I love it, man. This is going to stew in my brain this season, but your boy likes shooting deer too much.
But if you think about it, you know, you reference, you know, Ross and Austin and me and you and Mark, everybody, those 2 things that we've talked about, everybody, you know, those guys all put in the hard work. Ross, he doesn't kill big deer. Austin, they don't kill big deer by not putting in the hard work, and they both have goals.
For sure.
You know, and same with all of us, you know, so I think it's good to identify that stuff.
Well, you know, when you see like a common trait, like the hard work for sure, But I think it's easy for someone who doesn't realize like what type of hard work to put in, like where to put it in. That they see like, oh yeah, this podcast, you know, Austin killed a 170 and Ross killed a 202 or John killed a 204. And then, you know, that goes on and on. They're like, man, consistently, but it just goes back to like, you figure out what you got to do to be your type of successful. And, you know, there's give and take there too a little bit, but it's just calculated. But what I love about this conversation with you is last week we had Nick Morris on from Drury, and he's killed some studs, and he takes a very, I'm downplaying this a little bit. Go listen to the episode if you haven't, but he takes a almost, deer are stupid and lazy. You just got to not be scared to go after them and find them to a point. But I told him on the podcast, like, that hurts my feelings a little bit. I was like, cause they're not stupid. But he's like, maybe we give them more credit than they deserve to a point.
I think to his point, I do think we overthink it a lot.
That's what we talked about.
Okay, and we overthink it a lot.
Agreed, 100%. But like, you know, but he's a smart dude. You know, there's exceptions to every rule. Like you know that deer is sensitive to pressure. Mm-hmm. You know, that's a personality thing.
There's different personalities in different deer.
He said something interesting. I'm curious what your take on it. He says that he didn't know what study it was, but whoever they is said deer are as smart as labs.
Really?
I've never heard that before.
I've never heard that.
It's interesting to think about it that way.
To think about it. Some deer are very smart.
Some are.
Some are very smart, and some don't
care. Yeah. I think some don't get by with more.
Yeah, they will. They will. Yeah.
You know, so it's interesting.
I think it depends on where you hunt too.
100%.
I mean, you know, if you're more around a residential area, I think those deer let you get away with a few more things.
Yeah, they're used to seeing more. But dude, you know, we got some, you know, you get east of Ohio, a lot of those listeners scream at us when we get to talking about this. But you know what I learned? We did a social media experiment where we kind of, we made a fake statement, and we had a guy on from TikTok, and we said, Missouri is the hardest place to hunt in the world. Obviously, it was satire.
I saw that.
We made the joke to fire people up.
Right.
And what I learned is, everybody in the comments thinks wherever they hunt is the hardest place to hunt.
Wow.
And my response was, yeah, it's hard. Everywhere it's hard.
Everywhere it's hard.
It's all relative, but everywhere is hard. And those animals they don't want to die.
Nope. No, who does?
So anyway, okay. So if we get back on track here, I love this conversation so much. Like I could run this type of conversation in circles forever.
Yeah.
And that's why this podcast is never going to die.
There's a couple other things though.
I want to keep going. I'm not in that. I want to get if we were to go to step 3, if we're on a step 3 program here.
Okay, step 3. So one of the things that you and I talked about at Bear Camp, I was telling you a little bit about my agronomics business. So I started out my career, I'm an ag guy. So I started out my career in the agriculture world. So essentially I created a company that allowed me to do research in experimental products coming to the market, such as like fungicides, insecticides, biostimulants, stuff like that. Essentially, every company out there is looking for the next Roundup, right?
Okay.
So they're looking for that next multi-billion-dollar product that's going to work to
be the standard in everyone's practice.
Right. Yep. So I formed a company, and we were doing some trial work, and it was interesting. You know, they will drop ship you these products, and it's all classified confidential information, and they drop ship you these products, and they'll be like, okay, you're going to spray this product between V2 and V5 in corn, and they just have certain requirements and so you collect all this data, plant tissue samples, send them to labs, and you know, yield data, and a lot of information you gather and send it up.
Okay.
And so it kind of led me to start doing my own personal trials on my own farms with my own food plots. And you know, like all of us, you know, working class guys, were on a budget, right? And so one year, I was on a little bit tighter budget, and I was doing the research side of things for the company, and then I started doing some research side of things on my own farm. And like I said, I was on a budget, so you know, I'm a soil sample nerd. Like I like to do at least if not every year, every other year. And so like I've got one plot that's 7 acres, and so it's like it was calling for a lot of fertilizer, and that year fertilizer was cashy. And so I said, okay, you know what? I hunt down here at the northern end of the farm. Like, let's dump like the correct amount of fertilizer on that portion of the field, and then let's like back off to half the rate on this side of the field. And that kind of give me an idea of, you know, if it really changes things. It was corn that year, so I could do yield count and see and
oh yeah,
and stuff. I could pull some ears and do a yield count. And so it was interesting because over the course of that hunting season, I was able to watch the deer just gravitate towards the side of the field that, had the correct amount of fertilizer. So the plant was healthier. I think it tasted better to the animals.
Yeah.
It tasted better to the deer. And so that kind of left me thinking about some things like, wow, okay, this is interesting. I mean, they went ahead and ate the other part of the field out by the end of the year, but they preferred that northern half of the field. So it kind of left me thinking, like, how can I create an environment for these deer that they feel safe, that they prefer? So I'm already noticing, like, okay, they like, having the plant taste, it's healthy, it tastes better. And so I started screening, to create a safer environment for them. And then it was during the summer that I kind of came up with an idea. Me and some buddies were out fishing, and my buddy Kyle, he's bothered by the little gnats, the bugs everywhere.
Yeah, I'm
like,
the worst.
Who's not, right?
Yeah, I'm the worst with them. I was dying in Canada.
Yeah. Oh my gosh, Canada was terrible.
It's a problem.
Well, okay. Answer me this: so if you could have found a spot in Canada where you could hunt where there were no mosquitoes,
I'd be there.
You'd be there.
Yeah, 100%.
That triggered my mind. So going back to that, I'm going, if I could. You see deer all the time, moving their head around, they're scratching themselves. They're bothered by the bugs too.
For sure, yeah.
So I thought, what if I can create a space where they're comfortable? No bugs. I'm doing research on insecticides. Let's spray half of my food plot with that insecticide.
Yeah.
Let's see if that works.
See where you're going.
Now all of a sudden the deer started gravitating towards that. So I'm going, this is cool.
That's next level thought process on your food plots.
Well, yeah.
But it also makes perfect sense.
Yeah, I mean, think about it. I mean, you just said you would go to that area where there's no mosquitoes. You're not being bothered. You're able to eat in peace, right?
Yeah.
And so that was kind of like, wow, that was a light bulb moment for me. And so since that day, I spray like all my clover, alfalfa, all my beans, corn, everything with, insecticide. And it kind of last year or the year before we had the big armyworm problem?
Yeah. 2 years ago.
2 years ago.
Yep.
I had zero problems.
Okay. See, that's all right. I don't know if you know this because you just know a lot about food plots. I heard rumor that at night you can hear them eating.
Oh, you definitely can.
For real?
At nighttime you can hear the corn growing too.
I don't know what that is. Really?
Yeah. Go out in Chandler's cornfield. You'll hear that corn growing at nighttime.
Really?
July, August. Oh yeah.
I don't know if I know that sound.
You'll know it.
Okay, maybe I will. Maybe I'm just so immune to it. I probably can't hear that.
Yeah, but you can hear the armyworms feeding.
See, that's crazy. And I heard it's moths, right?
Yeah.
It's a moth larva?
Yeah, it's a larva, and then they turn into worm. And
God, what do we do to prevent that?
Insecticide.
I mean, what causes them to come up here, though? Because they come from the south, right?
From the south. I don't know a ton about them. Yeah, I think it was a storm that brought it up. But all the people around me, everybody around me, all their food plots were... It literally looked like they were sprayed with Roundup.
So is it something that you put down beforehand, or is
I
it
spray it twice a year?
Twice a year.
And right now, again at bear camp, one of the things that I'm concerned about this year is EHD because we're extremely dry in my area.
We haven't had rain since bear camp.
We barely had enough rain to even germ any of my plots.
Yeah,
so my beans are up. Corn's not looking great. All the corn's rolled up coming up here. So my ponds are low. They're all like 2-3 feet low. And so it's a perfect environment for EHD this year.
Yeah.
So what I'm doing is I'm spraying all my ponds and everything with insecticide.
Nice.
I mean, hopefully.
You're a savior.
Oh, well, you try. You got to try, right? It goes back to that hard work part of things. I talked about number one thing, hard work.
See, that's something, man, I might end up bouncing a lot of questions off of you because and I've admitted this from day one when it comes to food plot stuff and chemicals and what to spray and how to spray it. And like, I don't do soil tests like I should do.
Right.
It's
important.
And I know that. And I'm slowly acquired more equipment that'll easier allow me to put the work in to take care of what I want to do. But man, I think you're going to be annoyed by me because it's like, I need to get all this info off. Like, what do I need to spray here? When, how, like how to apply it. I'm learning all this in real time, really, if you listen to the podcast.
I do this. That's one of the other things that I do is I set up farms for guys. So we do this on a daily basis. It's not a problem.
So you're like doing consulting stuff too?
We do a bit of consulting here in our area. Yep.
See, that's awesome, man.
Yep.
That stuff, the knowledge and just from doing your own research and company research is That's valuable.
It's valuable. It's a, you know, when I started, I never thought that it would be valuable in hunting.
Yeah.
And it was like, wow, this is, you know.
For sure.
The more you know about agronomics, the better.
Man.
It can save you money.
It's pretty cool.
Time. Yeah, it's cool.
I love the spraying for bugs because, you know, like,
try it.
When you think about it, it's like, how big a difference would it make? But man, if you ever not get bothered by bugs, that's got to be amazing.
Right.
For them, they're never out of it.
They're never out of it. Create an environment where they feel safe, where they feel comfortable. They're going to go there.
I love it. That's a whitetail hack
Try
a little bit.
It is a whitetail hack. Try it.
I like that a lot. Does anyone ever have to worry about insecticide hurting?
Yeah, so you
plants?
need to talk to your local co-op and see, you know, what insecticide you can spray. I mean, those guys, I'm sure you're getting where, you know, all your seed, whatever your local co-op, just talk to them and say, hey, you know, I want to spray insecticide on this plant. Try it.
Okay, is a lot of it general purpose too?
Yeah,
like
general purpose.
It'll handle like most bugs and.
Yep.
Cool.
Yeah.
That's a good whitetail hack. I like that one. That's a first, I think, in the WCB library that I remember. If someone said it before, my bad, but I don't remember it.
Yeah,
coming up.
We do it. Works well for us.
For the it's EHD and stuff. That's caused by a midge, right? It's like a gnat.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, right there, that's like the best thing you could be doing. I imagine
spray around your ponds. I mean, you can't spray around every water source, but
but
the ones you can,
they almost need to get those little yellow airplanes for crop dusting and just
smoke it all. Yeah.
But you know, people don't care about. That's another thing. People who don't deer hunt don't care about deer.
They don't.
And that the argument is that we don't care about deer because we want to kill deer. It's quite the opposite.
It is quite the opposite.
Well, we do have a little bit of time. Do we have a number 4 and 5?
I have a number 4 for sure.
Okay, it's a 4-step program we meant from the beginning.
We'll see. I have a lot of steps. But
More steps will come out on the next episode.
Here's another one that's a little bit controversial.
Okay.
Okay.
Controversial. I like.
Okay. So
it can get spicy.
It can, and it might. The hunting game has become very competitive and very secretive. And competitive's fine, you know, like, but secretive, I just don't buy into that. So again, like I said from the very beginning, I own 80 acres. If you own the 80 next to me, guess what? We're hunting the same deer.
Hunting the same deer. Yep.
So it has worked out very well for me to try to form a cooperative of guys, meaning my neighbors, and just get them on board. And so I share. I am an open book. Here are the deer I'm going to hunt. Here are the deer I'm not going to hunt, and try to get them on board with hunting those same deer. Yeah. And if I can get them on board with hunting those same deer, my farms just go to the next level.
That's a really good tip.
I create just like a shared album. We just all drop pictures in there. And we all just go, hey, these are the deer we're going to hunt. These are the deer that are off limits. Because a lot of guys will go, I mean, I'm going to shoot the deer before Curt shoots it.
Yeah.
Just so I don't shoot it.
That's common.
That's common.
Nowadays.
That's what I'm saying. It's so competitive and so secretive. Like, do you remember the days when you go to like Farm King or whatever that store was and you see you're bragging, but you see all the, like, what happened to all that? Like, right? Like, so like I often think about like, why did I get into the sport? I have fun. Like,
yeah.
And it's fun to have that relationship and, you know, just help your neighbors.
Yeah, I agree with that too, because especially some people pull a short straw and have a kind of a D-bag for a neighbor and they can't help that. But yeah, if their neighbors are hunting and they care about hunting, they care about deer the same way, that's a great tip to get them all on board. And neighbors that I do have, or at least the neighbors I know, well, some I don't know the neighbors or whatever on some of the ground I can hunt, but the ones I do know are great dudes.
Right.
And hey, you know this deer? Yeah, I do know about them. Or hey, have you seen this? Like a buck I hunted that's hanging in the studio. We talked like, hey, have you seen that deer in a while? Nope. I'm like, well, what's the last truck cam picture you guys? Like, here's mine, November 12th. Here's mine, November 12th. Same day.
Same day.
And I'm like, well, then he had to have died somewhere in that range, but from something.
Exactly.
So, yeah, no, I agree. When it applies, for sure, that's the best policy.
So last year I was hunting, one of the deer I was targeting last year was mid 70s deer, 75, 70, 76, somewhere in there. The year before, he was 167 inches. I know that because I have both of his sheds.
Yeah.
And I passed him 6 times on video, like walking by me.
You got all the info you need.
I got all the info I need. I mean, I've sent it to all my neighbors. I'm like I'm holding up my end of the bargain here. Like, here you go. Because we all agreed to pass that deer. And so that gave me the opportunity to hunt that deer the following year. I didn't know if he was going to be 80s, 90s, what he was going to be. But he's mid 70s, which is good deer.
And it also made you were being honorable, so that if someone else shot it, they're a real D.
Right.
DeerCast appropriate.
DeerCast appropriate.
Yeah.
But, it gave me the opportunity to hunt that deer last year. I had him at 34 yards quartering to me, and I won't take that shot.
No, yeah.
My neighbor ended up killing him. So I'm fine with that.
Yeah.
You know, I'm fine with that. We all passed and we all agreed to pass him and he killed him. So good for him.
Yeah, for sure. That's part of the deal.
It's part of the deal.
I like it. That's great advice, man. It's all the stuff you presented. What I like about the angle of it is it's not like you weren't methodical with like the tactics of it, which I do enjoy that side of things. But it's very this is stuff anybody can do.
Exactly.
And that's like, well, that's really accumulates into an easy button. But it's not easy, but there it is.
We need an easy button.
We need an easy button.
Bam.
Just there's a big buck. Help me find it. Where do I put my stand?
Right.
But this all adds into the recipe of like what the easy button would be made out of. You just got to put some time into it.
Put your time in.
A little bit of sweat. You're gonna have to tick your wife off in the summer when she wants to do this. You should be working doing something. Not every time.
Not every time. You can't do it every time.
Not every time.
But you have to make sacrifices
for sure.
Buddy's got to go to the lake. You got to go prep your food plots. Just how it is.
You know, and it's just part of the deal.
How much time do we have left?
Hey, we own the show.
I just thought of another one.
Yeah, bring it on, man.
Okay, so
we're good.
Number 5.
Okay, number 5. There is a 5-step program.
5. Well, yes, it is now 5.
Okay, it's perfect.
Early on in my food plotting career, if you will, like early on when I got equipment and farms where I could plant food plots, I'm like, the more the better.
Yeah.
So I had a lot of food plots spread out everywhere, and it was just almost like having a 7-Eleven on every corner. You know, I mean, it's just like I spread my deer out too much. So now I tend to focus on 1 or 2 core food plots that are just where it needs to be.
Yeah.
I know again, it's very simple.
It's funny. I love this because I fit in. Austin yelled at me for this.
Oh, did he?
Yeah. So I got access to this piece, and in the spots where I could conservatively, I could put plots. And I'm like, oh, I got a tractor and a mower, and I got a little tiller, and I'm gonna put a bunch of food plots in.
Yeah.
So I put a bunch of little just
quarter here, eighth here, just all over.
Yeah, it'll keep them around.
That's what I thought too.
And maybe it did, but it just made them impossible to hunt.
Right.
And that's what I did. I juggled. And Austin came in. He's like, I see what you're going for. He goes, but do this. And then I'm like, okay, perfect. So I'm on to the one big attraction rather than having 4 small attractions.
Yep. Main event. One prime time spot.
Yeah. So that's what I'm doing. That's what
I've got 1 7-acre food plot on one farm, 1 6-acre food plot on another, and it works out really well.
Yeah. I wish I could go big like that. I just don't have the room, but
yeah.
But maybe one day.
Well, yeah, you never know.
I'm growing into it.
There you go.
Dude, I've been upgrading my farm equipment, man. I had an old John Deere 650.
Oh, a 650. Those are good tractors.
Yeah, it was a good tractor, all gear driven and just it was like a little tank.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? You could put that thing in one and hop off it, and it would never quit driving, And then I bought a little Kubota, like a 22-horse diesel with a bucket. So I got a bucket, now I can move logs.
Oh, yeah, you can push stuff.
And then I'm at
food plots with that.
Yeah, I did. I put food plots and, tilled with it. It was great. And then we got a little farm, my wife and I did. And, a couple permission pieces that allowed me to put in food plots. And then I had Tyler from Central Illinois Ag came up to me at the Illinois Deer Classic, and he's a listener. And he goes, hey, you need to buy a tractor. I'm like, I got a tractor. He goes, no, you need a red tractor.
Hey, I got a red tractor.
And I worked at John Deere too, so it's kind of funny. But I don't do whatever. Like John Deere didn't give me one. So thanks, John Deere.
Thanks, John Deere.
But I'm sitting there, I'm like, oh yeah? I was like, I kind of am in the market, kind of. And he goes, well, come on down. We'll talk, And then we get talking. I'm like, well, I need this for my Kubota. He goes, all right, let's just talk. We'll figure something out. And he ended up hustling me and made a deal. So I got a little 35A case, and I love it.
I got a 45C, so same thing basically.
Yeah, I was gonna go 35C, but to me, it's just a trim package pretty much and some features. But so far,
that's a great tractor. That's a perfect size.
Yeah, it feels like a tractor.
It feels like a tractor.
I can move stuff. I can till with it. Pick up box blinds with the forks.
Yep.
So I got a brush hog, 6-foot brush hog with it. So I got a pretty big one for that tractor. Tiller, 6-foot tiller, and forks.
There you go. That's all you need.
It's awesome.
I mean, will change your food plotting experience just having that machine.
Yeah, I mean, things are just easy.
You can get you have a little sprayer for it?
No, I got one on my Ranger though. I got something rigged up on the Ranger.
That'll work just fine. Yeah.
So I'm big time in now.
Hey, that's what it takes, man. I mean, again, going into you're putting in the hard work.
Yeah.
To be successful. Look at your season last year.
Yeah. We're gonna try and button down and go bigger.
Well, set your goal.
We're gonna try. I don't want to set my goal yet. I have my goal in my head, but I just don't want to commit to it on this podcast.
They're starting to. I've been seeing some really good velvet deer.
Dude, I know.
Around.
I've been playing the. I got nothing. Well, I do have I do have cameras out, but I've been doing the no pressure. After this next week, all my cameras are going to go back out.
I got to get my cameras out. Well, some of them are out, but I've got to get all my stands trimmed out yet.
Yeah, I got to do all that
on that a little bit. I'm slacking.
I'll do it all like right around the 4th of July span, and then I will not mess with anything until it's go time.
I've got 10 blinds I have to put out next week.
10
grizzlies.
Yeah, those are nice too.
They are nice.
Cream of the crop. Well, dude, I enjoyed this conversation. I need to keep bouncing my goals off you to hold me to the next standard, but man, I'm just I'm scared.
No.
Like,
I call Austin all the time.
Yeah.
We bounce stuff off each other all the time.
Okay, well, I call a lot during hunting season to go over tactics, so I'll have to put you in the circle.
That's what your friends are for, man.
That's right. Well, we're gonna kill some deer this season, man. Thanks for. I just love the angle on everything because it's attainable for everybody.
That's
in some way or another.
Yeah, absolutely.
So I know you're not big on the socials, but if people want to find you on Instagram or Facebook, where can they find you, or anything else, or consulting? You know, if someone wants to get some consulting.
Yeah. I mean, my handle on Instagram's Food Plot Doc.
Makes perfect sense.
Makes perfect sense. I'm also I do TikToks, Food Plot Doc, and I'm just Jon Forman on Facebook. So
perfect.
Yep.
Well, thanks, man.
Awesome. Thank you.
Everybody, thanks for tuning in and listening and watching on DeerCast. Get on DeerCast if you're not. Promo code in the description. And it's time to start thinking whitetails. But first, Bearathon week here on WCB. We've never done Bearathon week, so the first full-blown
That's going to be fun.
deal. Yeah, it'll be a good time.
It's going to be a good time.
It's going to be fun. So thanks for supporting us. Go shoot a giant. We love you. Peace.